So Long Spanky is quite an important episode of Arthur. This is the first segment in the 13th episode of the very first season. This aired originally in October 1996. It's directed by Greg Bailey. And DW, at the very beginning of the episode, DW finds out that her pet bird, Spanky, has sadly died. And it's all about her coming to terms with that. And there's also another animal that keeps following her around. And I won't say any more about this animal or what it is, but it's an interesting episode because it deals with death, but it doesn't really. To be honest, I don't think it addressed it enough. I don't think it did the best job it could have done of explaining what death was without obviously getting all religious or philosophical or anything. But DW wasn't necessarily as grief stricken as I would have expected, and the parents weren't necessarily giving her as much information as I would have thought they could have done. But at the same time, it's important for young viewers to realise that this is a thing that can happen. It will happen, especially if you have a pet, like a bird. I don't know how long birds live, but a lot of pets don't live for very long. And it's an important thing that maybe it can start a child or encourage a child to start thinking about this kind of thing and to realise that they're not alone. DW has gone through this. If you are going through it too, it's an important conversation. Maybe it can encourage a dialogue. But it's also about DW realising that just because Spanky has gone, it doesn't mean she can't love another animal. It doesn't mean that there's only one animal for her and she will never be able to love another animal. It was quite sweet. I also really liked how Arthur reacted, because Arthur, obviously as an older brother, gets annoyed by DW a lot. He wasn't exactly Spanky's biggest fan, but he had a very sensitive attitude when DW found that Spanky was dead. He didn't make fun of her or indeed of the bird. He had a very admirable approach. I don't know why that word is so difficult for me to say. So I think depending on which angle you're coming from, there's a lot that you can learn from this. And if you're a parent watching it with a young child, again, it can encourage that conversation about what happens or what to expect when a pet passes, because when Spanky dies, they have a funeral for him. We never had funerals for my pets, and I'm fine. That didn't bother me, but I know it can help some children. It can help them with the grieving process. I think it's a really important episode. It is enjoyable, but I'd say it's not as easy to watch as some of the other episodes, because it is a little bit sad, and I don't like birds. I'm not a bird fan. Had it been, say, a cat, though, it would have really affected me. So I think it can actually be quite an upsetting episode as well, but very important. And I think it's definitely worthy. It's not as fun as the second episode, Buster's New Friend, or the second segment, sorry. But definitely So Long Spanky is an important episode. I don't think it's perfect. As I said, I think maybe DW could have asked a few more questions. Not necessarily saying, what happens when you die, because then that gives information that certain people will agree with. We don't want children to be taught maybe certain religious beliefs if they're not part of that religion. But encouraging DW to ask some other questions could have been beneficial. But that aside, I'd say So Long Spanky is a pretty decent segment.